You're listening to the Lux Life Discovered podcast, where we talk with people who are living a lifestyle that reflects their passion, because we believe everyone should be living their best life, their Lux Life. The show is hosted by Rick Steiner with Steiner Event Group, a premier national event planning company, and co-hosted by Shannon Richmond, the Vice President of the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notifications of future episodes. The show is produced by 30A Media and is broadcast on your favorite podcast outlets, as well as YouTube, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TVs, and other major brand smart TVs.
Hello, I'm Rick Steiner. Welcome to Lux Life Discovered. My guest today is Kat Brown with Earth Thorn Floral Studio out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. So Kat, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I tell you what, I have been impressed with your style of work since I met you at, I think it was the grand opening at the
Yes, that's what I remember as
yeah.
well.
So, but yeah, I just like your work because it's so unique and it's not like anything else that, and I don't mean this ugly, but a lot of florists, it looks like a florist shop. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's
Sure.
like with yours, how did you give me your background on how your style originated? I guess the best way is to say that.
Sure. So I guess I have a unique background in a way because I started in the winter. I went to a florist. Her name was Pam Pemberton. She owned Flora in Northwest Arkansas for years, and every Christmas she does these hand woven wreaths and garland for her different estate clients. And so I was looking for just a new life journey at the time and reached out to her, and I went out to a flower farm, which is where she had partnered with them to help get all of these branches that we needed, like magnolia, pine, juniper. And so that first Christmas season, um, I was just in the trenches of cutting branches down, making them small, learning how to weave them in garland, make wreaths, and then go set up these Christmas houses. And she is retired now, and these were like her final days. So after the final days of just working with her studio. So then I went and helped her with different weddings, and she was always very ahead of the curve in working with local farmers in the Fayetteville, Arkansas area. So I've just really loved and appreciated that and been drawn, I guess, to branches and different textures since the very beginning.
Okay, that makes sense. So how did you like when you began a project?
Mm-hmm.
What's for you? It seems like it's more of a unique approach. So is it the florals that come to mind first, or is it a style? How do you? Because it seems like you approach it from a different way. It's not like you're doing a typical arrangement, and you're going to have say 20 roses, 20 this, 20 that. It seems like it's all very unique from the start.
Sure. So I always love to, when starting on a project, first just look at the venue and the season and get an idea of like what is the natural atmosphere and what is unique to the space or unique to the story of the couple, and see what we can like highlight through that experience and make it feel really cohesive, both like indoors and outdoors. Um, so I also like to just take into consideration, I will receive pictures and inspiration from the planners or the clients because I don't want to go against their vibe. I know there's a lot of planning process that goes into these
Right.
big events. So it's taking in information from a lot of different places. And then when I don't necessarily do exact recipes like you're supposed to do, I guess, in this world. I think more along the lines of budgets, like, okay, we have a $200 floral budget per table, or X amount percentage is going towards the ceremony. And then as we get closer to the date, really hot pulling in and highlighting things that are like as local as possible. So what branches are out there to be foraged, what artisanal flowers that are really unique and different are the farms that I work with growing at the moment, like what's in the client's color palette, and then just it's more like building a puzzle or using different paints for a painting in my world, um, uh, and then executing it. And there will be like some structure of like we're doing an arch or we're doing an aisle entryway, but really using a lot of different things to inform like the decision-making process.
Okay, and then also like in your arrangements, I mean, they're not, again, going back to the being unique, but they're not like typical arrangements. Like you're, and I'm say off-centered, and I mean that in a good way. They're very unique in how they're
Thank you.
placed and everything. How was that received when you first started doing that? Because you know, some people get things in their head like, okay, this is what the centerpiece should look like. Oh, it's not looked like this before. So is that,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think I still am learning to navigate that. Like where is my place and how do I market myself and how do I represent my own artistic expression and serve clients and make them happy with the outcome as well, because everyone wants their wedding to be custom. I
right,
did get really lucky in the early days of my wedding floristry career. One of my dear friends named Ashley hired me to help with her wedding, and it was out at Ponca. And we know each other from the yogi world, and so we're just in line with that kind of wild, natural, just being unique and different type of mentality. And so she hired me to do her wedding, and she just happened to hire Laura Powers Photography, who does really beautiful work. And that was a wedding that really kick-started my career and
okay,
was just a beautiful example of this kind of woodsy Wiccan work that I can do.
yeah. Well, it's definitely unique and impressive. So don't ever change. Don't ever try to fit the mold, because always break the mold, because you do a great job with it. And
Thank you.
you know,
I really appreciate you saying that, actually.
well, you know, when I contacted you about reposting one of your photos, when I saw it immediately, it was like, this is what I love about her work and her style, because there's nothing that compares to it. And so I think that's always unique. And I like unique things, whether it's a venue or person, talent,
Mm.
that always stands out to me, because I think the worst thing a bride can tell me sometimes is like, you do such great work, you just do what you want to do. And it's like, this is not my event. It's your wedding, you know. I want
Right,
their personality to be reflected, but I don't want it
right.
to be duplicated from something I've done before. In fact, there's a floral designer, and he used to be in Atlanta. He lives in Natchez. He moved back to his hometown, and he has recipes for everything. But the main reason he does is because he doesn't duplicate one wedding for
Yes.
someone else. He says it has to be unique to that couple, because if it's not, it's not going to
Yeah.
reflect their style, their personality. And it's really a good, I like that mentality.
Yeah, and it's also I really like when I look at photographs of someone's wedding, that's how I always am almost seeing the wedding at the end, is like I've set up all the florals and then I'm most of the time leaving before the actual event is started, and then I get to actually see the whole day unfold like through the photographer's lens when
Right.
as the photos are available. And so I'm always looking for some sort of like it's an editorial cohesive project, and I want the style of the flowers to match the style of her dress, to highlight the beautiful architecture of the venue, and like so on and so forth. And then I think that that really plays into when you have these gorgeous dresses and you're doing these photos with a photographer, then you're like have your own bouquet that highlights and complements the whole thing. So I'm just always trying to think of the whole thing as a whole.
All right. And you don't have to give like an example, but have you ever, like after you've set up for a wedding or done a bridal bouquet, and then see the pictures later and it's like they've changed things? Like, have you ever had that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always self-editing, I guess, and looking at the end result and saying, if I could go back, what are some things that I might change, or what do I feel like I could have done better, or did that frame the aisle the way that like I hoped that it would, and
Right.
taking away just some self-criticism. Or I always am paying attention to like how flowers do individually. Like, are there certain um varieties that just don't make it well while being transported in the heat? Or, I'm always just like paying attention to anything that I feel like could be an improvement, or maybe it will help spark some inspiration for another project down the
Right.
line.
Oh, that's a good way to look at that. So you have so many beautiful venues in Northwest Arkansas, from
Agreed. It's amazing. I can't
like
believe it, honestly.
Crystal Bridges to Mildred Cooper Chapel. Gosh, the Grand at Willow Springs is such a blank canvas. So with so many different options there as well. And buildings like we were talking before we went on the start of the podcast. You do a lot of work with the University of Arkansas in their event division.
Yes.
So that has to be interesting and challenging at the same time, because people don't understand. If you're not from the area, you don't understand the diversity that is in Northwest Arkansas, and the amount of clientele and caliber of clientele that come to Fayetteville, Bentonville, because of Walmart, Tyson, and the university. I mean, it attracts some high-end people to the area.
Yeah, so I find it really interesting that I would say at least 50% of my brides are actually from out of state,
Right.
and they come here to um, get married a lot of times in these beautiful architectural places, whether it's the chapels, crystal bridges. There's other venues. There's so much that people can do. And
Right.
so instead of, they'll do like a destination wedding, but they'll have it here and they'll make a full weekend out of it, whether that's like mountain biking or going to a concert at the amp. And with the venues in particular, since they're such like, they're really high-end places, and they're in the sense that like they I want to respect them and respect their architecture, because they're such beautiful landmarks for our community. And so that is something that I probably more than most keep in mind, of just like, what kind of vases are we using in here? Like, I don't always love to use floral foam. I prefer to just do water, but sometimes if we're going into places like Crystal Bridges or other art museums, like I'm going to go ahead and do the floral foam because that's the best practice and the best etiquette. So those are decisions and just experience that I've had in the back end, that are just things that I bring to my work that people may not necessarily see. And again, that's just because I want to make sure that the place is clean and that everything is nice and that we don't have any huge messes. And so a lot of times too, even if the design is rather large, in my mind, I'm like, how can I design the majority of this at the studio so that the majority of the mess is left at the studio, and then bring it in pieces to the venue and
Right.
set it up, the majority of it that way, and then like fill it in and do any final touches that need to be done. Maybe some things, a few stems didn't make it in transit, do those final touches. But I do feel so lucky to have these beautiful venues here. And I think it's a great place to consider getting married if you're looking for that like romantic, ethereal options, and while having like some great places for your guests to stay
Oh, yeah.
without doing the entire like international commitment.
Right. Yeah. I've done a couple of weddings out at Mildred Cooper Chapel, Memorial Chapel.
Yes.
How did you find that? That is such a unique venue to begin with. And it's one of those where it doesn't take a lot of decoration, because you don't want to mess up the beauty of it. So
Yeah.
is that a huge challenge for you sometimes when you have a venue like that? Because you can go, very high end with it, or you can keep it very low end and just focus on the beauty of the glass and the architecture and the scenery. So how do you approach something like a venue like that, for example?
So I actually, a lot of times, because when you rent that place, you get very little setup time. You only have like
True.
30 or 45 minutes before your
Yes.
wedding
That was the
time.
biggest shock for me, the first one I did there. I've got how long? It's like,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
exactly. And during that 30 to 45 minute setup time, that's actually when the photographer is in there with the couple getting those
Right.
like pre-ceremony first look shots. So I'm always open to talking about doing larger designs in there if that's what they want. We would probably need to extend further the rental time,
Hmm.
which is an option. But honestly, for the majority of my clients that are getting married in those beautiful chapels, I tell them that the bouquets are plenty and the space is beautiful. And let's just go ahead and roll that flower budget over to the
The reset.
party
Yes. Yeah, I
and
agree.
use it on your head tables or make your centerpieces larger for your guests to enjoy them. Um, there are so many options that you can do like at the reception, and it's for a lot of reasons. I just feel like you said, the chapels are beautiful, they're architectural, you already have like beautiful photography moments,
Right.
so that's already like such a beautiful foundation. And then, like we said, just the setup time. And then you're trying to go back and forth and get flowers. And I've just found that if we're trying to keep things sometimes simple, quiet luxury is just the way to go to keep your wedding. It's more about the just letting the experience speak for itself. And then we will go to your party and we will have a moment for the flowers if that's something that's really important to you.
So where do you see brides, in your opinion, where are brides spending more of their floral budget now? Ceremony, I mean, reception, and if so, what part of the reception?
Where are they putting their budget?
Yeah, like at the reception, are they doing on
Yeah.
the head table, the arches, or
Mm-hmm.
what? How are you seeing?
So I mostly see brides are really wanting that princess bouquet moment right now. They want it large and draping. And so I've been getting a lot of requests for just kind of the oversized, super ultra luxury bridal bouquets. And for the budget, I see a lot of it going into the reception. I guess it depends where the venue is.
True.
But if you're getting married in one of the chapels, I see the majority of it going to the reception, doing really beautiful table arrangements and just making that feel like it is for a wedding, for a gorgeous dinner for your guests. And I like spreading the flowers out almost as much as possible in a sense, like across tables, because I want everything to feel like it fits. So in my mind, with the budget after the bouquets, your tables are next. Then from there I have some great pieces that I can make where they can be placed on pedestals inside of the ceremony, and they can be placed either up on a pedestal or you can place them like to mark the aisles in. And a lot of times the wedding planner or someone on the staff can move those
For the
from the
reception.
ceremony and then place them like on bars. So that can
Right.
be great. Um, and then from there, people right now are loving those like the long runway
Yes.
shots where the flowers just go all the way down. So those are definitely like the trends right now of what I'm seeing. But of course, I always love a great like custom ceremony design moment.
Yes. I like the trends, and I like a lot of things that are like quote unquote in at the moment. But then I'm
Mm,
always impressed with that one bride that wants to be different, and it
yes,
just knocks it out of the park and sets a new standard. So,
yes.
yeah. And those are the fun brides to work with because it's a challenge sometimes. Sometimes
Mhm.
it seems like a huge challenge, but once accept that challenge and you do it and you do it well, then it's like, okay, this is the vision she had, and this is why it works. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that could be really fun for different brides. Like I will, if when I'm foraging and working with the natural seasons, it will be dogwood blooming season in the Ozarks, and then it will take me back to that one wedding where we utilized dogwood throughout the designs. And so I think there's something really beautiful there, like when you're thinking more about when you're getting married and seasonality and what's in bloom, like you're creating your own family crest or family story of like every time the dahlias are in bloom in the Ozarks, that's right around when your wedding anniversary is. So, I get really romantic about it, like plant some dahlias in your yard and get them at the farmer's market and just really start enjoying that as part of your family story as your family continues to grow
Well,
and
that's a good
move
idea.
on through the generations.
I've worked with the guy I mentioned earlier who lives in Natchez, and I'm not going to say his name, but we were doing a wedding down there one time in Natchez, and he needed a particular flower, and it was growing in a lady's yard that he knew. And so he goes, when we get up there, he said, just stop the van. I'm going to run out and cut a few pieces and be ready to take off. And so we did. And I got tickled because it was like, oh, this is how you high-end florists work. Just go snip stuff out of people's yards. So we saw the lady at the wedding, and she's like, she called him by name, and she said, if you had told me you were coming by, there was a larger plant by the pool that you could have come in the back gate and gotten more from. And so she loved him doing it because everybody loves him in that area. So if they see him in the yard, they're just like, oh, get this too, and it's amazing how that works. But he's big on like doing the local and keeping it, natural as
Yeah,
possible. And so,
yeah. And there's ways to do it too. Like, magnolia trees, for example, they get overgrown unless you trim them. So I found that I can always find a friend with a neighbor who needs their magnolia tree like trimmed down some, or I've started going into garden nurseries as well and just seeing like what we can potentially do like for a large scale outdoor tent party where we bring in some different trees, bushes, flowers, things that are like living plants to then help like bring in some of that kind of grounding but beautiful energy into this space and like help guide and create different moments for the guests, whether it's a seating area or the place where the band will be, or like a really beautiful entrance. And what I love about also approaching it with that idea in mind, or like the ability to do that, is then if this is an estate wedding like I've had before, then the client can actually keep a lot of the things that we've purchased, and then the trees that were brought in, like the dogwood trees that were brought in for the event, can then be planted in
right.
the yard. So it's fun. Like there's always new doors and new avenues and new ways to bring like nature into the event.
What do you think your biggest challenge has been with your?
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge is definitely balancing my like love for local and working with seasonal varieties, and then also having these like large scale events that need like a lot of product all at one time. And then also just and then balancing that also with like the style that's being requested by like the wedding planner and the client. And so as much as I like love to do local and support farmers, I can't necessarily do that 100% of the time with 100% of the event. So it's fine. A lot of times it ends up being a balance of about, when everything's in season, about 40 or 50% comes from local, and then another 40 or 50% is flown in to just help provide more base for the event. And yeah, just communicating with clients that I am different and I am wanting to do something unique, because we're in an era where everyone loves to go to Pinterest and Instagram, and I do too, like to get inspiration of like what's out there and what's the big new thing. And so it's really easy to get caught up in like, well, this is what I want, and like we're all just kind of copying each other. And so just kind of taking a step back and figuring out the right way to showcase that type of work and find clients that are like really excited about doing something that's maybe like a little new age, I guess.
Right. And then have you had clients want a particular flower or theme that's totally not the time of year for it when it's not in bloom locally, or have you had that issue?
Have I ever had that issue?
Yeah.
Well, I try not to overly promise any flower. I've been doing this a while now, so I'm pretty good about like I know that peonies are in May and the dahlias are in like August and September,
Yeah.
and really
Well, no, not
explain.
you necessarily, but a client that doesn't get that. Like she's
Oh,
dead set on like a certain flower, and it's like, well, that's not the time of year
yeah.
for it, you know. So
Yeah, and sometimes, they want certain looks. I'm like, well, we can still get that vibe or that color palette. We'll find something from your inspiration that is what's really exciting to you, and we'll see if we can carry that note forward while also, we're just in such an interesting place because we don't have a big wholesaler here
right,
in Northwest Arkansas. So I see florists in Dallas or the coast, and I'm like, wow, you guys get to like
get to
walk
everything.
into
Yeah,
this big flower market, this
yeah.
giant wholesaler, and like really pick out things or have things in order. And if they don't come in, you have all these flowers at your fingertips. And so I'm always balancing like having flowers come in from multiple different places and different things that I can utilize to get the full order.
Well, great. Well, listen, our time is up, but thank you so much. It's been a quick 30 minutes for sure. But we're
Yeah.
going to put your information on the screen. So we want people to definitely reach out to you, to your website, follow you on Instagram and social media. And you do weddings, corporate events, private events.
Yes, I do all of that.
Okay.
And then I also am doing flower experience parties now, if anybody ever wants to do that. So you get to come in. I can either design your whole event with me and my team, or there's a new option now where we will host like a party for you with your closest family and friends, and you can be a part of the flower making process for your event, and then we will deliver and set them up.
Oh,
So
wow. That's
custom
interesting.
and
Yeah.
hands-on.
That's good. In fact, you may be the first I've heard that's doing that. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some clients that are just really excited about it. So I'm so excited to see where everything goes.
Well, Kat, keep doing what you're doing because it's absolutely beautiful. And like I said, from the first time I met you at the grand opening at Grand Willet Springs, I was totally impressed and have been since then. So keep up setting the standard.
That means so much to me. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you. And make sure you reach out to Kat and see what kind of unique, beautiful highlights she can bring to your special event. So that concludes our episode of Lux Life Discovered. We will see you soon.
Check out Lux Life Discovered on Facebook and Instagram and on 30a.tv. See you next time on Lux Life Discovered.